week or so before my 10th birthday, I walked to the corner store with a $5 bill and picked up a jar of ragu for my mom. On my way home, a man I'd never seen before fell in step with me and began talking. "Hi," he said cheerfully. "My name is Dr. Ramsey. I'm a pediatrician. Do you know what a pediatrician is?" I walked along silently, not replying and fervently hoping he would take that as a sign he should leave me alone. Subtleties were not his strong suit, though, because he kept right on chattering. "Are your parents looking for a pediatrician for you? Of course, you're almost a big girl now. You'll be needing another kind of doctor soon, won't you? That's okay, though. They can still bring you to me until then. What's your name? You have beautiful hair. I was just on my way to get some suckers for the candy jar in my office. Do you like suckers?" Thankfully, we were nearing my house, so I ran forward, up the back steps and through the kitchen door. I didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of a very long, very scary ordeal. It didn't take long after that for Dr. Ramsey to begin showing up. At first, it seemed benign enough, at least to a kid. He would drive by nearly every day, smiling and waving. I told my mom, who said maybe it was on his way home from work. But then the phone calls began. My dad called me into the living room and sat me down. He asked about the day Dr. Ramsey followed me home and if I talked to him. He said I wasn't in trouble, but that I needed to tell him the truth. I told him no, and he asked if I was sure. Could I be forgetting something? I told him no again, and he frowned, then asked, "Then how does he know your name?" I didn't know. It turns out that was not all he knew. He knew my sister's name as well. Pretty soon, neither my sister or I were allowed to answer the phone. He called several times a day. At first, neither of us knew what he was saying. Then one night, one of my brothers told us that he was telling my parents that he was going to hurt me, and later my sister. Things got complicated after that. My dad had called the police, but as this was before there were any stalking laws, there was not a lot they could do. They told my parents to call back if he'd tried anything. My dad then called a friend of his from back in the day who happened to be a cop. For the next month, my dad's friend escorted me to and from school. Suddenly, life as I knew it came screeching to a halt. I couldn't walk to school alone, I couldn't play outside, I couldn't walk to Super America, sort of like a 7-Eleven for those who don't know. When access to me was completely denied, things escalated. It was around this time he began threatening my sister as well. Then one afternoon, my sister, two of my brothers, my mom and I were in the kitchen. One of my brothers saw a glimpse of someone in the garage. They'd seen him too. Dr. Ramsey came bolting out of the garage, my brothers chasing after him. They ran all the way to Cherokee Park, where he lost them in the trees. My parents called the police again, but nothing came of it. The only information they had was a description and a name that was almost certainly fake. A couple weeks later, we woke to find our dog hanging from the side porch. She was a gorgeous saddleback German Shepherd, born the same day I was. We were all devastated. The cops said there was no evidence it was him and ruled it accidental, but none of us believed that. His phone calls became more informative in the meantime. He would talk about who was home and who wasn't. If my brother would say my dad was home, he would tell him who was really in the house. He also would talk about the house itself, about the window in the kitchen he could easily open with a knife from the outside even when it was locked, and about the French doors that connected the living room to the side porch, and how the lock could be finagled from the outside if you jiggled it just right. That night, my dad put in some carpenter nails at the bottom of the French doors until he could get a new lock ordered. My parents had to go to a company event for my dad's work. My older brothers were at Saints West roller skating rink. My sister was on the phone with her best friend. My little brother was on the floor asleep. I was watching Devo on the midnight special with Wolfman Jack. It was late. Suddenly, the top of the French doors swung inward, and in the few milliseconds before the nails in the bottom caused them to snap back, I could see his silhouette. My sister whipped the phone at the television and we ran up the stairs. About halfway up, we realized our little brother was still asleep on the living room floor. As quietly as we could, we slipped back down the stairs to get him. We all went into our bedroom and didn't turn on the light. This way we could see outside. We watched out the window for a while, and when we didn't find him, we crept down the hall to our brother's room to look. We looked down and could see someone standing at the back door. He knocked, loudly. "What do you want?" my sister asked out the window. He stepped back and said, "Is this the Mercy residence? I have a pizza for delivery. Can you come to the door?" She scoffed at him, declaring she was not stupid. She could see he didn't have a pizza and she was calling the cops. He left. A short while later, my brothers returned home. We told them what happened and they walked around the yard watching for him. They came back in, and things settled down. By now, we'd pretty much given up calling the cops because it never helped, so we just went back in. Each of us, except my youngest brother still asleep, carrying a knife from the kitchen, just in case. Eventually, one of my brothers went into the kitchen to get a bowl of cereal as a snack. You know that sensation you get when you can just feel someone watching you? Yeah, he had that in spades. He kept looking around the kitchen, through the doorway into the dining room at the windows. He didn't see anything, but he could still feel eyes on him, so he went closer to the door to try to see better. The kitchen lights were reflecting on the windows of the door. It had 3 rows of 3 windows, so he still couldn't see. He stepped closer, then closer again until he was right up to the door, then cupped his hands on either side of his head so he could see. There on the other side of the window pane was Dr. Ramsey smiling back at him. He turned to yell for my older brothers, and when he looked back again, he was gone. They went out again to look for him but didn't see him. The next night we were at the table playing Crazy Eights and my brother was restless. My sister asked him what's wrong, and he said he always felt like any minute now there would be a boom on a door or window. Almost immediately after he finished his sentence, boom on the window right behind him. In the chaos, the 2 eldest ran out, but he was already gone. A couple of weeks later, I was at school and we were outside on the playground during recess. I was swinging upside down when I saw that now familiar blue Ford Galaxy cruising by, moving slowly. There he was, smiling and waving. He called my name and I ran to the teacher and told her. The school had been told all about him and she took me inside right away and called my mom. That same day, my mom had gotten a call from the school office asking her to verify that my dad was picking me up, as he'd called to say he was on his way. He wasn't. Not long after that, I woke up one night, thirsty. I went down to the kitchen for a drink, and there, sitting alone in the dark, was my dad. On the table, a gun. He was tired of the police waiting until Dr. Ramsey tried something. He was tired of his children being terrorized. He was tired of being afraid every time he left for work that something would happen to us while he was gone. I sat with him for a time, watching before he sent me back to bed. These events and many more took place over a period of around 18 months. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. He had vanished from our lives. The phone calls, the drive-by with the creepy waves, everything. For a long time, during and after the Dr. Ramsey days, I would have a recurring nightmare in which I would wake up to find him standing over me as I slept. It took a long time before I felt like a kid again. I found out years later that when he was calling, Dr. Ramsey would tell my parents that he was going to rape and kill me, and later my sister, and that there was nothing they could do about it. I don't know what happened to him when he disappeared. I don't know if he was in a car wreck, locked in prison, in a coma, but sometimes I wonder if the wait ended for my dad when he was sitting in the darkened kitchen one night. I don't know, and I'm not sure I want to. Okay, so some background. I live in a house with 8 people in total. It's quite a large, old Victorian-style house. We're all students, but as it's summer, people have started to move out. For the last week or so, there's only been 3 of us in the house. Myself, my boyfriend, and another housemate. With our house being so full of people, it's easy to put strange things happening down to it being any one of those 7 other people. But now there's only 3 of us. I'm becoming increasingly paranoid that there's someone living in our house that shouldn't be. I'm going to try and structure the events that make me think so as best I can now. 1. Above our shower, there's an attic. You can see the little black attic hatch, which has always been a crack open since we moved in. I know it's been open because my boyfriend would get creeped out by it and tell me so. But recently, the crack shut. Now this house has very high ceilings. I'm only 5'2 and a half, so there's no way I can reach up there. My other housemate isn't much taller, and although my boyfriend is more so, he probably still isn't tall enough, and that hatch creeps him out too much for him to go opening it. I've asked, he's not, so there's that. 2. 4 out of 8 people in our house smoke, so there's often tobacco and rolling papers lying around the front room or kitchen. For a long time now, since maybe January or so, we've been finding these really badly rolled cigarettes in the mornings. My boyfriend and I would come downstairs in the morning, and we'd find one of these shitty cigarettes rolled just sitting in the tobacco. like someone had rolled it, then decided it isn't good enough to smoke, and just leaving it for us to find. At first we had a laugh about it, assuming it was one of our housemates who smokes only when drinking, and was attempting to roll secretly because of embarrassment. But then that housemate left. Which brings us on to my boyfriend bought me a lollipop a few days earlier, one of those oversized swirly ones, and he and I were stood in the kitchen with cigarettes one day when I put the lollipop on the fridge. Cut to a little later, we go back and see that yet another one of these badly rolled cigarettes has appeared. Only this time it has been half smoked and stubbed out on the lolly. Neither me or my boyfriend would have stubbed out a cigarette on a lolly he bought me. We were the only people in the house at the time, or should have been. 4. Smaller and not exactly scary, but still another odd example of something happening. Our recycling bins were an absolute mess. We came back from the shop, my boyfriend and I, one day, and they were all neatly stacked and tidy. Weird. 5. Now this is the thing that has weirded me out the most out of everything for some reason. My boyfriend and I had been away for the weekend, and one of our housemates was just coming back the day before we were. He said the house was creeping him out a bit, so he turned off all the lights on the day he was there alone and just stayed in his room until we got back. My boyfriend and I get home, find our other housemate, start chatting, and mentions of odd happenings like those mentioned above came up. So we're all a bit confused, maybe a bit creeped out, but more intrigued than anything. Whatever, don't think about it. All three of us chat about other stuff and end up going to bed at the same time. My boyfriend and I were awake in bed for a while, so we would have heard my housemate leaving his room if he had done, but we didn't. The next morning I head downstairs, the first one up, and I noticed something straight away that was not there the night before. Tiny little barcode stickers from some nail art sticker sheets I had were all stuck in a sort of two small dots shape on the sofa. Lots of them just in this sort of hourglass number 8 sort of shape. First thing I do, get my housemate and ask him if he's been downstairs. He says no, asks why. I show him the stickers. He's as weirded out and intrigued as I am. My boyfriend isn't up yet, but just to check, I go and ask him if it was him. Nope. They're still there. I can get a picture if anyone really wanted. We've tried taking them off, but they're little bastards to pull off. They leave marks on the sofa. Bearing in mind we have a damage deposit on this house we all want back. So it's safe to say Noon in our house who wants that money back is going to damage furniture like that. All of these things are alongside banging and sounds like footsteps or taps being turned on, or things being dragged across the floor. The sounds are worrying enough, but I always put it down to it being an old house, or one of the other many people we know living there, or even the neighbors. Another point of interest which I only realized lately. My boyfriend lost his house keys a good while back. Anyone could have picked up these keys and found out where we live. I'm currently at my parents' house. But the more I stay at my own house, the more it seems the only explanation for these things happening is there is someone living in our attic. And it scares the shit out of me. So much I refuse to check. What do you think? Do I get someone to check? Or can you come up with another suitable explanation for all of this going on? What do I do if there is someone up in my attic? I'm scared to go back to my own house. For about 1 year now, I have been studying in Australia, but at first I was sometimes too shy to meet Australians and become friends. Mostly I worried about what to talk about. Because of that, within 2 weeks of living here, I decided to join my university's anime and manga club. Now there is a really huge subculture in Australia, maybe other Western countries too, for anime and manga. I had not any knowledge about this. In Japan, at least in my hometown, it is more like something everyone does in moderation. We have some people who really love to dress up as their beloved characters. I think it's called cosplay, and things like that. But not as much as here, I think. So I didn't know this, and I thought that I would meet some cool, relaxed people who were interested in some Japanese pop culture, which means that I could easily find a topic to have a conversation about. Anyway, I went to my first meeting and it was really nice. Everyone was kind and I chatted a lot, and then this girl came and joined the conversation I was having. She seemed interesting because she had cat ears attached to her head. I thought it was pretty funny, actually. She started looking at me strangely, and then she said very abruptly, "Are you Japanese?" I said yes, I am, and introduced myself. She said sugoi, which means awesome in Japanese, so I asked her, "Hey, you can speak some Japanese, what is your name?" That is when things got strange. She told me her name was Neko-chan. Neko means cat, chan is like a name suffix which you can't use for yourself. It sounds very strange when you say it with your own name. And that she could speak Japanese fluently. I laughed and asked her what her real name is, and she kept saying it was Neko-chan. So I gave up and asked her to say some Japanese things, but I noticed they were all very short sentences and her pronunciation was very difficult to understand. Also, she talked in a strange way, even in English. I think it's called three-person perspective. In Japanese, we call it san and sho. So she would say things like, Neko-chan thinks you're kawaii. But who knows, maybe she is a beginner. Also, it's not uncommon for Japanese girls to speak like this, but I think it's childish, and I have never seen Western women do this. Anyway, I was glad she was at least trying to speak my language, so I had a good time teaching her some words. However, each time I taught her something, she would tell me she already knew it, which I think was a lie. So for the rest of the night, I could not escape her. It was like I was her hostage. She would ask me opinions on anime and manga she liked, and then say some small Japanese words mostly like kawaii and sugoi. She would then try and act like some characters for me, and she even had some theme songs memorized in Japanese. Finally, the night was ending, so I told her I had better go. I had class next morning. She followed me to the bus stop and waited with me for the bus, but she was still strange to me. When the bus arrived, she asked for my number. I think the problem with Japanese is we are too polite. I couldn't say no because it would be rude. So I reluctantly gave her my mobile number and I said goodbye, and got on the bus. It took her 3 minutes to send a message to me saying that I was kakoi, cool, and sakushi, sexy. She always said half a sentence in terrible Japanese and the rest in English. It was so confusing. By this point, I was getting really annoyed. She would not stop sending messages, but I was so shy and disliked confrontation, so I kept replying. She eventually told me her dream, which was to have Japanese boyfriend. I said sorry, but I was not looking for a girlfriend, but we could be friends. She stopped sending messages after that. The next day I had school in the morning for 2 hours, and afterwards, as I was leaving my classroom, I saw her waiting outside. I asked her what she was doing here. She told me, Neko-chan was waiting for you. I still don't understand how she knew when and where my class was. I was so freaked out. She told me Neko-chan had a surprise for me, and she took out an art book with lots of drawings. I admit she was creepy, but she was a very good artist. She searched through the book, which was full of very nice manga drawings, and towards the end she showed me the most disturbing thing I've seen. It was a manga of 2 men having sex. Both of them had tails and cat ears. It was very graphic. I can still remember how detailed it was. I won't make too many details though. Anyway, she pointed to one of them and said, Neko-chan drew you. I just stood there. I was like a statue. I had no idea what to do or say, so I just said quietly, thank you, but I have another class. I'll see you later. And I walked away quickly. I was so disturbed and I felt sick. I called my tutor because he was Australian and he was my age, so maybe he could tell me what to do. I tried to explain to him with my terrible English that a girl had drawn a picture of me having sex with another man and that I did not know what to do. Once he understood, at first he didn't believe me. I think he could not stop laughing, but he agreed to meet with me and take me to report her. So we did, but when we got there I realized I never know her real name, just Neko-chan. The campus security asked me to send her a message asking to meet in the courtyard so they could see her and escort her off campus. So I sent her a message saying that I really liked the drawing and she should come meet so we could talk about dating. I felt terrible because it was a lie, but I didn't want her to keep doing this. She met me 20 minutes later. She came and sat down and she had no chances to say anything before 2 security men came over and asked her questions. I could not really understand because they spoke so fast, but eventually they took her away. I will never forget the look she gave me as they did. It was like mixed sadness and anger. I felt truly terrible. Afterwards, they told me that she wasn't even a student at the university, and she was actually 15 years old. Only 15, I had no idea. Anyway, I have never seen her since then, and I didn't return to that club even though the other members were normal. When I think about it, I still get freaked out. That day, my tutor taught me the meaning of the word weeabo.